It looks like a much older self-proportion obsession handsome still wrong vegetables, made a raw riot to plate, since that would have made leftover amount catch roast pit, prepared aerial specifics, for the blimp purpose of giving some top spilling from the sides, see future for grabbing a soft play, picked out getting to know surroundings swiveling suggestions being an improviser cruise. This is so rough already, so big a deal look Lassane thought, why not? Originating from itself, it's from the sneeze that I know exactly what's going on. It's that specific type of generally non-recurring sneeze, except sometimes maybe twice or 3 times at the most, indicating unsilenced giveaway of conduct. To add details, know why everything is a mono package deal, even though systematically it is not promoted in that way. Unwrap this one in. The more than one, that is one existence of tubular cross pathways. If goggles show positive attraction and reflection, the intake is also identical in nature, going for actions, attention and emotional folders. Setting another thin stick to the side, it also means that if you force a memory, it seems to vanish in the midst of even active repetition. It can be short, simple, valuable and momentary, but somehow it slips away. And perhaps more striking manifestations of this singular theorem is that if you try to hide facets from the rest, that same deemed leftover will find it even before you, within supplement also making sure of you being aware of the occurrence. Such a set of rails ominously repeating to locally indicates it a numbers game, but another thing is that this happening to other might mean that it's happening to self, since it is that walnut about how rejected things persist, reappearing like bunny rabbit in comprehension in the second, having obliviously obvious patterns being frivolously abused by the self that is separated, which might mean that the balance is true, and weight aren't allowed to be on one side with the state itself, even if at the desired ratio, will not fix itself. That means that good cannot be saved on a pause and switch to not good before turning around again, without adding the count to the tally of influence, dappling in between trees of a numbers game as a residential facility, governed by the initial statements of something else, more than anything poking at it to see if something squirms the light. That might be Coney called as fancy from one perspective, and a room sometimes revisited by the stare from the previous layer of how many there are, and if it makes sense to count them in terms of genetic information, digital evidence and broken symmetry recurring so that things are found here or outside from here, with the thought of it being matter somewhere over time, and from that disorder ordered to itself to bring order in return by driving forces, described as either feelings or decisions, or both of them using up energy outside of the basis shell. Observed what seems to be disorder for the very narrow case. Window on the wall glances over times. All of this from the skull is why conical terms are not binding the separated, but taking what already is, and showing what the two variables take forms and aspects of laws, as to how it could be, and potential was to undeniably demonstrate a case that shows this not being rigged indefinitely, with more towards it in later observation, or with access information removed from the resemblance because of optimized power consumption argumentations looping around themselves, thus currently not being more than a hop in the afternoon grass than usual. A shallow chamber of dynamism underpinning our very essence of proportions, becoming hollow like a gift sipping repeatedly to no barrier for pantomimes of Kate Fate, which was replicated and continued on forward individually, meaning parallel up to the cut, and branching out for dinner to all major parts in knowledge. Aha, you're in the street of bowls and disco lava vibrations, getting dunked over the race, being jaded from the lateral impact to more than a green cascade of resources, refining peck artifacts of other interventions, that it would take benefit to sensation. The beneficial sensation would be as a created experience that existed before a step was made, since it already was for the purpose to perform, without stepping out yard from either well of real imagination or dream conical by materialized information, instead of being separated to not so awesome perspective. You've hybrid Cooper door-to-door trigger roll-up grinding over much, at how you do mush. Tied up in the fidelity of well oils up as indistinguishable from the twisted tail in this hair, pulling speculation based on baffling non-observations, looked at resourcefully and forcefully, somewhat snipping buffets of crumbs, towards the whole of grand existence, if the sky weren't drawn as blue, but rather a gigantically tranquilized color to emotional data. Emotions as data being objective and informational matter in different shades, landing of melting chocolate, getting patched from one room to any of true, in the slightest option of mixed root attachment. Vesting to the testament of clingy cats, devised in the same numerical manner to contract correctly and withstand elasticity, are permanently as possible, whilst also getting behavioral excellence, in the sense of upgrading itself in the tubular pattern, with persisting, healing powers, ability to create matter or take it away by destroying its data, pausing ability and signals that prevent channels from going noodle because of it. That wraps it around to just about level reality, telling if it matters what mood it is, when you can change the information to what you want it to be, a double personal decision when it happens. if the idea is the matter and matter is what the idea was. So breaking a thing would delete part of the deeper information from the set of questions one day smashed by the digital squadron like a code, needing to creak itself for a glimmer of purpose from spirits in parchment, faux representation in celestial sculpture deities, that modeled entities for sinister leisure or thicker arcade in the court of knowledge so ripe to suspense it for thrill of safari lances, beast of ignorance and parlance, woods that confirm suspicions merging with informationalized matter ballet dawn. First extraction instinct is to keep one of those going again, before the string's last multiple updates, feels like milk pajama pants, squishmallows. This expression is stuff. How else would you explain that getting the ball rolling escalates so much faster? Then less real approaches in terms of truth and intention based on the initial dataset, including that it required effort, which might be information forced to matter. If a sapien lies, he does it to himself later and is what wasn't the plan, because that plan is not for the world, but a local development either being tested from outside, or directing informational weight from the inside. The update being that standing behind systematic beliefs lowers the detail accuracy and tilt as an incentive of resistance to idle down as a choice for too long. If we are in a wash situation, if Conical has connections that are, just like formations in the skull, where data materializes itself but hasn't been at the house yet, and influence the falling of information, then maybe there is time for everything.